Yeah, I'm Maria Doyle. I'm community manager for Bioconductor, and in this session, I'm going to talk briefly about our move from Slack to Zulip. So, why we had to make the change, how we approached it, and what turned out to matter in practice. Okay. And yeah, so I'm not doing a feature comparison. That'll be one of the other speakers, but just a short account of what happened when a long-running community like ours had to migrate its communication platform. And so who our community is, so it's a bit of context. So Bioconductor, it's a global open source bioinformatics community. It's over 20 years old. It's a community that are creating software, so R packages for analyzing biological data, and a lot of genomic data. And much of the work in the community is volunteer driven and asynchronous. And so for us, chat, it's not just transient conversation, it's where technical decisions or discussions happen and where context accumulates over time. So our Slack, we had a Slack for over 10 years, and it kind of functioned as a shared memory, or an informal decision record as well for our community. And so the trigger then, so why did we move from Slack to Zulip? So it was simple. Our Slack Pro subscription was ending. The yearly cost was just infeasible to continue. So our choices were to move to the free tier of Slack, but that would retain only 90 days history, and it would mean losing that decade of messages. Um, so that history that included, technical discussions, rationale for decisions, and a lot of institutional memory. So it wasn't really a Zulip Slack versus Zulip, but it was whether we were willing to lose that record, um, and if we needed to move platforms. So why did we end up with Zulip? So we chose it for a few reasons that Philip has nicely covered a lot of them. And a big one was that it was open source and community governed, and that mattered to us as had similar values. Its topic-based conversation did interest us, but as the majority of us, I think, were Slack users, it wasn't something that we were familiar with, so that was a new thing. Um, having the full message history with no retention limit, and that was a major reason for wanting to move. And then Zulip also very kindly provide this sponsored standard plan, which for open source software communities, but also other non-profits. And they will host the platform, and they host our platform now at no cost to us, which is just fantastic because we didn't want to have a platform that we had to, or that the core team would have to host, because they're quite a small team that are already stretched to the max. So hosted was very important. And we also did have some community members who had started using Zulip for other communities that they were part of, and they really liked it. So they also advocated for it being a good option. Okay, so then how did we actually migrate? So I led this migration, and it happened over a few weeks. And this is like high level summary of what we did. So I actually did a two-stage Slack export of our Slack workspace. and importing it into a Zulip. So the first stage was a pilot import for testing and feedback. So that was set up, and I was able to share it with we've got two boards, a community advisory board and a technical advisory board, and also then our Bioconductor core team. So I could share it with them. So they had a chance to get in and explore and see what it looked like. And then nobody had any objections to moving to it. They were happy to move. So we went ahead then with the final export and import from our Slack into Zulip, communicating with the community about what was happening. So I wrote this blog post, which the link is here, and I think I've put it in the Google Doc as well. And that has a bit more of the operations around the transition. Um, so yeah, one thing to mention here is the web public channels that Philip mentioned. They were something we didn't turn on, and we don't have at the moment. That was taking a conservative default because our current Slack didn't have web public channels. So we didn't think we could just expose everything to the public. So we kept it as login required, but anyone can request a login for our Zulip, and then the data is available in the platform. Okay, and then what changed in practice? I was just highlighting a few key points. So one of these is the topics then, so that Phil also mentioned. So that was something, so that was new to me and new to a lot of the community, but I've come to really like it. So this is a screenshot of our Zulip. It's showing our general channel. Here on the left is topics within that general channel. And in the main view is one of these topics in full view. And it's nice that it is one topic is one conversation. So I find it makes it easier to follow along a conversation rather than having it branch into like threads that can get buried and just a rolling discussion with different conversations happening. Um, so what worked well for us? So a few things work particularly well. So discussions, I think, are now easier to follow. So from the having those topics, especially for people who are coming, I guess, late, who've been away, or new joiners, you can see because they're like now have clear headings, topics on what they're about. We also have our conversation history preserved, which is very nice. And we are able to move messages. So this is a nice feature that Philip also mentioned that I've come to really like. So you can better organize messages in the workspace. So this is just an example of a screenshot where we had a user who had posted a message in our general, which was clearly meant for this BugSig DB group, this team in there. So I was able to move it in so it could then get the responses and be part of the discussion there. And okay, but what are some challenges and trade-offs? So it wasn't friction free. There was a bit of a learning curve for new users. I would say around how to use topics effectively. We do see that some people might continue on a previous topic, but it's a new discussion. But that can be simply fixed by either they see or someone else can change the topic. So it's not a big issue. Um, Accessibility, we do have there are some outstanding issues for users with screen readers. So I would say Zulip is not yet a drop-in replacement. If you do have screen reader dependent people in your community, there are so like Zulip are aware of this and they have open issues that they're working on to improve that. And we also, just to mention, had one issue with privacy post-migration that was resolved as well. What happened was that the user emails were visible to everyone via the user directory, but we were able to communicate that with Zulip, and they changed then the default for that. So it was a learning for both of us. And what would we do differently if starting again? If we were starting from scratch, I would definitely take a closer look at having web public channels, so that it does mean people might be more inclined to join the community or able to see discussions and then want to engage with them if they're just visible openly. And we are an open source community as well. And also to flag accessibility limitations earlier if we had more time to testing, but we were under pressure to with our transition. And so finally, just some key takeaways. Um, So for us, we wanted to preserve our community history. So that was a reason for moving, but also Zulip offering that hosted no-cost platform was brilliant, and we really appreciate them as an organization for having that offer for groups. And then it was useful to be able to pilot the transition, pilot the export using our real data and seeing what it looked like in a Zulip before we went ahead then with the final move. And yeah, topic-based conversations. Once you get used to them, I now find you like I'm tempted to. I wish that Slack had it that I could te team a topic in it. But yeah, it's something. It's very. It's a nice feature. And then I have the two links here, which I've added into the Google Doc for this session, which is the link to our blog post on our transition, and also the short Google Doc guide I made for Bioconductor community when we were transitioning to kind of tips for using Zulip. Um, and thank you. That is just a brief overview of our transition. I'm happy to take any questions now, and if you want to contact me after this, I'm in the CSCC Slack, and also you can get me on that email.